Well, hey friends, Raj here. I hope you're doing well. Usual caveats, I'm still in cancer treatment, so I look like a character from Dune. I have a bit of a speech impediment, and that's the way it goes. I wanted to tell you about this guitar, this Fojill. Will it focus? My camera is being uncooperative. Fojill, T-style guitar that I got on Amazon for $159.99, which I think is a pretty rockin' deal. We're going to find out all about it, but first, here's a little playing. Bone stock. No mods. Stock strings. Heaven forgive me. I found this guitar because I make guitars, and most of the guitars I make from scratch. Start with lumber and go from there. But I do have some guitars under the name Blevins that are kind of import bodies and necks through an OEM supplier. And I am pretty sure, although it can't be positive because China gets weird, that this is the same supplier. So can't be certain. But anyway, that's kind of why I was drawn to this. That and the fact that it's $160 for a mahogany body, and I like a Relic, and I think this is done pretty well. A roasted maple neck. It's lightly roasted. It's not super dark, but still helps to stabilize things. I'm going to do this in 3 different stages, okay? The first is bone stock. Stage 1, I'm a son of a gun, I'm a hamburger bun. Stage 1. I have unboxed this guitar. It has sat in this room overnight to acclimate it a little bit. I have tuned it up. I have intonated it with a screwdriver. And I have basically set the action to where it's not fretting out, which at this point, let us measure with our handy dandy action ruler. We're about 1.75 mil on the low E. Just a hair under that, between 1.5 and 1.75 on the high E. So that's a little higher than I would typically like my guitars to be set up, but that's where I had to be for the least amount of chatter and rattle and all that good stuff. I will say this, stock strings, very terrible. The strings themselves may be fine, but they have gone across the ocean, my friend. So if you've ever done a gig and not wiped your guitar down, put it back in the trailer, touring through Georgia, and the next day you get out there and it feels like you're playing on sandpaper, that is not unlike this experience. I've cleaned them off with some fast fret best I could. I typically replace the strings right away, but I wanted to leave it bone stock for you purists out there. At $160, what's the percentage the string cost? I don't know. So as quickly as I can, I'm going to go through the guitar from tip to toe. So again, we have a roasted maple neck. The biggest surprise out of the box was we have split shaft tuners, which I don't think I've ever received on a budget guitar. That was quite a pleasant surprise, and they feel pretty good. You know, I wouldn't say they're go-to or anything like that, but they're not bad. The low E has a little more slack than the rest, just due to the string tension probably, but they're certainly serviceable. And the fact that they're split shaft leaves me a little giddy. It's a really cool detail that they didn't have to do. You might notice, friends, no string tree. We are free of tree, which is, again, on a guitar at this price point that kind of mimics a Fender geometry. Don't know if I've ever seen it. Don't know if I've ever bought one like that. It makes me think they're pretty confident in their geometry. And after playing for a few minutes here, haven't popped any strings out. The nut doesn't look particularly deep in terms of the groove. So kudos to them on that. I might add a tree, actually, just for a little more break angle over the nut, but we'll see. Speaking of the nut, as we move down here, a bone nut, according to their description. I'll take their word on it. It's a rosewood fingerboard, just your typical plastic dot inlays, kind of pearloid-ish, and markers, but they're all in the right place and seem to be set in well. There's no description of the fret material, but I'm going to guess, just because I know a lot of these Chinese companies have been switching, these may very well be stainless steel. Fret end dressing is perfect. It is without flaw. Great angle. I don't know what it is, but yeah, just perfect up and down the edges of the fretboard, which is kind of remarkable at this price point still to me, even though there have been a few others that have been that way. A little grime in play at first, especially, but again, ocean, container cargo. We have a mahogany body here. I think it's 3-piece, if I'm counting correctly. Obviously a Relic sunburst finish, done really pretty well for something at this price point, again. And it's a satinish finish, so it kind of reminds me of the old Road Worn, of which I have at least one laying around here somewhere. So very similar to that feel and look, and not overly done. It's just primarily the edges and the contours. The contours, you say? So you get a forearm contour, and you get yourself a belly cut in a classic T shape, which again, I think is really great. Makes it a little more comfortable. It doesn't really change the aesthetic of the classic T shape, and with this Relicing going on, you don't even notice it from the front. So if that's important to you, either one of those things, the look or the contours, you get both. The neck pocket is crazy perfect. No gaps, no chips, just really well done. So kudos. Kind of a mint aged pick guard, which looks great with this. We've got classic tele layout, right? Single coil, 3-way switch, 1 volume, 1 tone. We're going to guess dime sized pots. We're going to guess ceramic pickups, but we'll figure all that stuff out in a bit when I take it apart. We've got some kind of mushroom style strap buttons, which are actually just fine. And the jack is your typical cheap import looking tele jack. So let me assess this out of the box and tell you what I feel is going on with it and what's right and what's wrong with it. The basic geometry, the basic cuts in terms of the body and neck, the fit and finish, all that stuff, I'm fine with. I'm more than fine with at this price range or double the price range, right? Hardware-wise, everything works. Nothing is broken. Nothing is wonky. But the hardware is relatively cheap, and I can just make that call via comparison to a bunch of other guitars that have also been cheap. It's not the cheapest. It's not the worst by a long shot. The pickups individually, I don't really hate either one of them. I don't know if they really go together all that well. This is pretty dark. This is pretty biting. But we'll see what we can do, maybe with a couple caps. Because the next stage is essentially me taking the stock guitar without doing anything drastic in terms of modding. Like I won't replace any hardware. I'm going to keep all the parts in place, but I'll get a fret job done, make sure we knock down any high frets, and just take care of any issues on that front, of which there's at least a couple, based on the action I was able to achieve. When I took it out of the box, I noticed that the bushings on the tuners, some of them aren't pushed in all the way. Probably would never affect this guitar whatsoever. You could probably go through 20 years and it would never make a difference because they're tight in there, but they're not in all the way, so I'll address that. I will give the nut a once-over in terms of the slots and just making sure there's no weirdness inside the slots. And I'll open it up and take some photos of all the guts and the routing to let us know what we got going on. I'll put new strings on it. Woo! Goodness gracious. I'll probably stay on the light side of things. Maybe 9.5s, I'm thinking. Kind of my new jam. I've been 10s forever, but kind of like a 9.5, so I don't know why. I think that'll probably put us in a really good spot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call a couple friends that do guitar work, some movie theaters, and see what they would have charged me to do the work I'm going to do myself. And that way we'll have a pretty good idea of guitar plus work equals, and we'll see if we come out ahead or if I'm just an idiot. Stage 3 will likely be another video, but I'll outline my thoughts about Stage 3 before I wrap this one up, because I think it's going to be pretty cool. Okay, so I just did a fret rocker, and honestly, there is very little, with the exception of one spot, that I feel like needs to be addressed. I'm going to chalk it up to the strings at this point. So don't go marring your fretboards before you change strings.